We've just witnessed the biggest week in Bitcoin's history, over $18,000. Now, that alone is not anything to be excited about. Could have been to the downside. The thing to get excited about today are the closing prices on the daily chart here, and more importantly, on the weekly chart. Now, this doesn't just go for Bitcoin. There are several altcoins which are doing relatively well. The traditional markets, which is something we focus very heavily on here. We're not just about the altcoins and the degenerate side of finance. We're looking at the traditional markets, Bitcoin, the real estate cycle, and of course, we'll tack in some altcoins in today's video. Now, we've got some major signals which could be playing out today. That I'll get into in just a moment, but if you have found value from the channel, our no BS approach to trading, technical analysis, and understanding macro cycles, do us a favor and hit the like button and share the content with a friend if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. So, the topic of today's video, of course, is Bitcoin pumping 21.7% out of the low. Now, this low came in almost to the dollar on the GAN 50% level. If you aren't using these in your own trading right now, I suggest you learn how to do so. GAN 50%. You can use your fib extensions or retracement tools, but they have produced very, very solid returns or very, very solid turning points. Of course, there are some returns if you are trading those features as well, those signals. But they have produced the same thing that happened back in August. And I posted about this on X. So if you're not following me on X, why not? Link is in the video description. Let's have a look at this right here. You can see from the September 2023 low to the March 24 top, so basically a 6-month move there. We had that low come almost dead into that 50% level of that move. Nice big pump up, 100% repeat, and then the market's gone sideways. Now, what's happened from this point is we had our 3-day down rule, basically our 3-bar rule, because it works on multiple time frames and multiple charts, different assets. So it's fantastic to learn the signals to then apply them across different markets. Now, of course, I'm getting excited here, but we just need to stick to the TA. There are some good times, and we need to also factor in some of the things that could go wrong, of course. But let's just stick to the good stuff at the beginning of the video. The 3-bar down told us that things were going to go either sideways or down. Essentially, it was telling us that it was not going to go up in a big fashion. Yes, there was a false break here on the Trump inauguration, and then from that point, we've basically seen the market collapse. Now, leading into this low, some other key signals to get to this bounce before Trump, of course, puts out this very, very massive post in the last 24 hours. This is Bitcoin and Ethereum going to be added to their reserve. But first of all, he posted or tweeted about on social. What is his Truth Social? Something that most of us aren't subscribed to. The US crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks of the Biden, blah, 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 which is why executive orders, yada, yada, XRP, Sol, ADA. And now they're going to make crypto great again. So that's what's happened in that last 8 hours. But prior to that 8 hours, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars down. Now, this is another very, very important signal that we talk about with members. And we obviously mention it on YouTube videos as well. But if you can track this in real time, it can help you put the pieces together in order to get some good entries in the market, which, of course, hopefully you're able to. And I did at this low. Now, I'm not going to bang on about that because it sucks. It's in the past. So whatever. Let's have a look at where we are from now. And if we can get this next signal in real time, just like we talked about the in real time signals from the top. Now, the next one, we saw the 3-bar rule. This was 3 days down. Maybe we'll get a 3 days up from this low. Now, I'm putting it down as a significant low. This could be the reset that we've been waiting for. We have 1 bar up. We have 2 bars up. And that's on a Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, which are typically very, very low volume days. And Sunday has been a great day there. Early into day Monday, which potentially is that day 3. But we need to see Monday cross across this top, which is 95,129. This is for the Coinbase chart. So check out whichever exchange you're using. If you can see this 3 bars up, then it is a strong possibility, very strong, that the low is in. On top of that, so that's one signal. The second signal here, after this pumping and holy grail move, I guess you could call it, for Bitcoin and possibly some cryptocurrencies, is that we saw a bounce off the 50% level. So the major 50%, we've talked about that. That is a very, very strong move like we've seen in the past. And we've looked at multiple examples of how this has played out time and time again in the markets, showing up for these lows. So I want to take you to the next particular signal, and that is an extension of the double top. This is the double top. So this is another trading signal that we use for our analysis to help us in real time determine where the market might go. So there's obviously probabilities here. And when you see this signal, there is a high probability that is going to extend out to 150%. So there you can see this here, 1.5, $80,300. And that is this move right here. It failed at 50%, broke down from 50% and kept moving to the downside, got to the 100 and then collapsed into the 150%, which was another fantastic area because it lined up with the major 50% of the retracement. Now, if you're new, it can get a little bit confusing because you're talking about this 50% and that 50%, but stick with us here because we're looking at two different things. We're looking at the extensions and then also the retracements. So that's looking at this entire move and then how far does it retrace. So that is now three different signals there. 50% bounce, the 150% extension. So basically the market getting overextended. Think of it as like your RSI, if you sort of understand that a little bit. Then you can see that the market got overextended here and needed to bounce. We got the bounce, so there's the two there. The third one there is the weekly close. And we can just chuck this onto a weekly chart. Very, very strong close here on significant volume. The two closing prices that we were concerned with was the low, so the swing low of the trading range, and that was at, for a round number, $89,000. And the next price was above this diagonal trend. So this was one that Michael's been watching on his channel. If you don't subscribe already, go through and do that. It is in the video description right here. Now, that particular level came at roughly $92,500 to $93,000. And crazy enough, the week did close above that level. So we got multiple signs here that this has a high chance. Of course, there are no guarantees in the market, but there is a high chance that this is likely the low that is in. And if it is the low that is in, we might start to get a little bit of FOMO here from people who have missed out on this particular low, and they start to chase their tails on the way up. More on that in just a moment when I look at the longer term cycles for BTC on the monthly chart here, moving into a right translated cycle, the extensions to the upside with price targets, time targets, and all that sort of thing. But before we get too carried away there, I want to have a look at the USDT dominance plus the USDC dominance. This was also a fantastic close for the bulls, so the crypto Bitcoin bulls. As you can see here, throughout the week, it had been testing the 50% level, closing above it, bit of volume coming in, and then that daily bar on Friday that dropped was a potential case that we were going to see USD, basically stable coins. We've got the two here, the two biggest, USDT, USDC. So we're going to see stable coins drop in dominance, meaning it was possible we're going to see that stable coin money come out into Bitcoin and crypto. And of course, like many will do, they'll say, oh, it was Trump. Okay. The thing that I come back to with that is if you can build a trading plan of knowing when these people are going to be tweeting about it, great. All the power to you. In my years of experience, I've never seen that work out very well for anyone in the long term, maybe the odd post here and there, but in the long term, I haven't seen it work. So therefore, I come back to the TA and have a look at some of the signs that were leading into a change in trend before these sorts of tweets come out. And so if you start to see the momentum beginning to shift, these sort of tweets just amplify the move that is about to happen. And without the tweets, the move might take a little bit longer, but I think we're going to get to that end point eventually. Kind of like just adding fuel to the fire, right? It's going to get there anyway, but these things just add fuel to the fire. So with the stable coin breaking down underneath the 50% and a nice close underneath the previous top here, there is now better probabilities that this is going to continue down and the double bottom will fail. So if the double bottom fails, we're still a little way off it. It needs to get back down to about 5%, 4.8%. If that fails, then this is going to send the market ballistic. That's an if, okay? It still needs to get back down. Still got to test this level here at 5.85, and then of course back to the lows. The USDT dominance is the chart that we've been following a lot of here. And this is what it could lead to if this double bottom also fails. You can see the movement here up to the top, right? On the weekly chart, that's where it would be. And it hit the 50%, hit the 200%, basically hit a lot of resistance levels here, significant resistance levels off the double bottom, and then also the major the major move. So you got the downtrend here, and that was the 50% through the middle. So it was unable to close above that. And it did fall short of the worst case scenario here for the Bitcoin bulls, crypto Bitcoin bulls, of breaking out of the diagonal downtrend. So we're back under the 50%, back underneath those swing tops at 4.65%. And if this is also going to fail and the double bottom here eventually comes down and takes out those lows, I think this is going to ensue next. An F-off massive bull mania, because that's essentially the stable coins flying out of stable coins and into something else, primarily Bitcoin and maybe some of those stronger altcoins. Now, here is where the serious-ish part happens for a cautious, bullish scenario. And it's what happened in 2021. We had a breakout to the upside. So it's this pattern that we've been following for months, since about October, November on the channel, watching how this low came in and how it broke out to the upside. So yes, I'm bullish. I think Bitcoin's still got further upside to go. Some other altcoins will check, probably still have further upside to go as well. Some significant moves. Maybe you're all going to get rich. Okay, all that sort of bullishness on the side. But to keep it real, because that's what the markets are about, there's no, if you want that bullshit hopium hype, you got plenty of other channels out there that will send you broke trying to get that hype. So let's just keep it real here. This is what happened through May 2021 into the next Bitcoin all-time high, and some altcoins also hit new all-time highs around September to December of 2021. The dominance began to collapse. It put in a higher low, which you don't know at the time, but it was essentially signaling that the bulls were weakening. Therefore, all of the hype that came in late in the game was about to get wrecked. So this could be months away, but it's something to keep watching in case you see this sort of play out. Maybe it comes up, starts to continue down, and then put in maybe a false break or a higher low somewhere around this 3.6 to 3.8 level again, maybe even 3.9%, and work its way higher. That is going to be a major warning signal, so that you don't, well, us, me included, you don't get held up in a position when some of the signs are saying, looks like some of this money is trickling out of Bitcoin and cryptos again and over into stablecoins late in the cycle. So watch this chart here in case we start to see something that happens like 2021. That was a bit of an early warning sign there. And here is the macro for BTC, the big cycle here. We are in a right translated cycle. I've still heard some comments saying that we're in a left. By all counts here, it's already a right. We got into a right translated cycle in November, confirmed it in December, and we're well and truly into a right translated cycle. Okay, I don't know where this left BS comes from, but we're in the right side. Therefore, we can measure the lows to the lows, and we're looking at something around second half of 2026 for another low. Does not mean that it has to play out exactly like previous cycles with 3 years up, 1 year down. Previous cycle again, 3 years up, 1 year down. This could be 2.5 years up, 1.5 years down, and then it could be 6 months up in the new cycle, and then 3.5 years down. So that's in the cycle following this one here. That's a little bit of a way off, so let's just focus on where we are now. And the final stage is lining up with the final stage for the traditional markets as well. Obviously the S&P 500, the real estate cycle, things are continuing to pick up and increase in value over the longer term. Obviously this might have another 1 to 2 years to go, and the volatility has definitely, I can't see it dropping off here yet, but the volatility has gone absolutely bananas. You can see it in people's emotions with the sort of things that they will reply to in comment sections, or the way they interact with their portfolios and their money. The volatility in emotions is there, and it's showing up in the charts as well. So that is a symptom of this final stage. Make no mistakes. I don't think this is a full reset of the game because Trump is in. It's all part of the same thing, the end of the cycle. Hopium continues, but before I get too far into this, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We're extending the TIA premium sale. If you missed out on it last week, link in the top of the video description for the email updates on the report. The website is in the video description there, and you will receive that code for the sale. Big savings with this TIA crypto pump going on. Okay, so over to the Elliott wave cycle, something else that we go into more detail with members, and obviously teach you how to implement this for yourself and apply it to your own charts. We're looking at the Elliott wave count that Michael has produced here and has been on track for years now. You know, this is something that he's put out publicly for over 18 months, I believe about 2 years, coming to where we were at those lows back in 2022, 2023, early 2023. And he's showing a lot of hopium in this particular post. My highest probability market structure remains intact. Wave 5 extension provided strong close, because of course this was 8:30, and for us the closing price is at 10 a.m. so an hour and a half later we got the closing price. It seems like the warning sign did not come through. That would have been a bounce with a lower swing top forming that would then fail. And it seems like we've got the close that was required to produce something like this white arrow here. So the white arrow is looking for a nice big bounce, a correction, another bounce, correction into that wave 3, which is crazy. You still have to keep all your options open. And I say this is crazy because if we do go into wave 3, then you've still got a wave 4, big correction, and then into another move to the upside. And with Elliott wave, if this is a wave 3, final substructure wave 3, wave 3s, if you know about your Elliott wave, are the strongest wave. So if this is, and I have to say if because no one has any crystal balls here, if this is a wave 3, you will most likely, the symptoms that you will see early on is the absolute ridiculous FOMO and greed pickup. And that can tell you we're probably in a wave 3 and there's probably a lot further to go in this move, or like a strong move that is. So a big move to the upside. That is going to tell you. So don't get too hyped up on all of the hype that gets thrown out there, because that is just a symptom of the potential wave 3 and these final substructures into the peak. The fear and greed index earlier today as we hit 33 on a bounce here, which is a nice thing because we're still in greed, even though Bitcoin pumped 21% in 48 hours. So, you know, talking about sentiment, it's nice to see that we've got a bit of a divergence here. And it's what I pointed out a couple of days ago, looking at that low come in at 78, yet the fear was dropping off. Like we started to see the fear, here it is, go from 10 to 16 to, I believe it was 20 and 26. Here it is, 10, 16, 20, 26. Look at my memory, it's still there. And now today, 33. Meanwhile, Bitcoin dropped to 78K on this particular day here. Hit 70, as I think it's 77 something, right? But basically in those high 70,000s, yet the fear was lessening, moving more towards neutral. So a bit of a divergence there with the sentiment. People have basically been absolutely washed out. I saw it in the comments. They left. They said, I'm done with this shit. I'm not coming back for the cycle. And here we are, 21% up. Winner's curse phase, of course, we'll come back to this in just a sec. But I want to draw our attention now to the traditional markets, because I want to look a little bit shorter term. Yes, we've seen all the hype, we've seen the excitement, but the main game is to try and hold on here, because when things inevitably dip, and they will dip again, they will dip. If we get that dip and the fear increases, then people just sort of shut down and they think that the whole game is over and, well, it was all just a fake pump. And so the reason I'm looking at these numbers is when we see March, which we looked at for February, the end of Feb was negative, flat, negative, 0.1, negative, flat, negative, flat, negative. Like the end of Feb was pretty bad. This is for the S&P 500. It dropped off, went into a low, and it's bounced since then. Look at the first, look at the second, look at the third, the fourth, the fifth. They're all positive days here. couple of them slightly flat, but some pretty significant days, 0.3, 0.1, 0.2. You add all those up, you got a 1% move there for the S&P 500 at the beginning of March. But you then get some negatives that line up, a little bit more positive here, 0.2, 0.1, 0.3, 0.1. Some negatives line up again towards the equinox of the month, mid 20th, 21, 22, some negative, negative, negative. And then it starts to head northwards again. On top of that, this is pretty similar chop for the beginning of the year in a post-election year, 74 years of history here. January through to May, but more importantly, let's have a look at January through to March. So that's quarter one. It's not the easiest ride. So again, from quarter four that we're looking at in end of last year, we were talking about the first half of this year not being the easiest ride, even though the long-term outlook for 2025, the fifth year of the decade, is looking like we're going to finish the year positive again. We had a very easy ride in 2023 and 2024. When you look back, we did, but the headlines told you otherwise. Musk was telling you that it was going to be a recession. I've got those posts. You put them on X and said that there was going to be a recession into the spring of 2024. That's long gone, and the markets were up 50 to 70% overall. You can go through, pause this, read all the headlines here. Bezos urges this, 81% adults think of recessions coming, forecast, blah, blah, blah. The news absolute destroyed people for the last 2 years, and the markets were up. Now they think there's going to be a major bull market. Therefore, it's probably not going to happen as easy as it was in the last 2 years. So here it is, quarter one leading into quarter two, possibly not the easiest time, and that's exactly what we have seen so far. So we're looking at some sort of low anchor point to come in where we can start to measure from for the rest of this year. Now, even though the year finishes green, it doesn't seem like it's going to be the easiest ride. We've got this move up after everyone is fearful, and then flatlines again with a dip, move up again, flatline and dip, moves up again, and then moves up again. How does that look over the composite? We are here, moves up, flatlines, moves up, flatlines and a dip, moves up again. So we'll keep coming back to this as it's a great reminder of where we currently sit in the markets. Okay, S&P 500, the other macro thesis that I've got with the markets is that once it starts to show a clear trend again, like it has done in the past, where these big rectangles are circled, which is also coincides with the Bitcoin bull market, then we'll start to see a cleaner move to the upside for Bitcoin, potentially breaking out of all-time highs and heading up again. As with the S&P 500, it is knocking its head on a logarithmic resistance level that stems all the way back pre-GFC. 1 point here, the next point's 2021, 2022, and now we have multiple times that it's hit its head on that. If it is able to break out here, and this is just my theory alone, I haven't heard anyone else talk about it, if we're able to break out of this level, I think we've got some pretty significant upside here for the S&P 500, big moves up, which I think will also flow over into Bitcoin as well. So some pretty significant moves there for BTC. So another one to keep watch here of what is potentially coming next. Now let's drop it back down to the short term here. This was the S&P 500 on Friday. Big bounce, huge volume for the end of the month in February. Of all months, February has got this low here. And if that is going to hold, you potentially have a higher low here. Now, I haven't seen any closes above the 50% level, nothing above 6,000 yet. And yeah, ideally, just a little bit higher than that above this next little swing top at 6,024 points. Therefore, while this is still there, I suspect it might come back and test some of these lower prices. Plenty of support levels at 58. But really, overall, I'm saying here is the chop continues until there is a clear trend again. So at least what I'm saying to myself, don't be feared out of any of this chop or any of the downside, because it looks like it's forming an anchor point somewhere in the near future. The post-election forecasts and our roadmaps. Therefore, let's have a look how this continues to play out. We've seen plenty of fear, extreme fear. Previous close 18, extreme fear. It's come off the 125-day moving average just like it did in August. I mean, it seems like everything is just working out the same way, almost to the rule book, to the playbook as what it did back in August. Everyone getting feared out of their positions and there are some more bases beginning to form. Now it's time for some altcoin updates quickly because we've seen some massive bounces here. Total crypto market cap excluding the top 10. Double bottom potentially in play. If that holds out, you need to see a break above 10%. So we're just looking at all these other altcoins except for the majors, which I'll get to in a sec. This might be your altcoin season hopium that you're looking for. Do note that you still have lower highs here forming, so it has to get above plenty of resistance before you can get on a major altcoin season and basically pick anything. But nonetheless, if this is the anchor point for the altcoin season on the weekly chart here, what it's done in the past, or all I've measured here, is about a year from a significant low in the others chart. So this is others dominance, right? It was 57 weeks back in 2017 that led into January 2018. That was for your 2 significant altcoin pumps, maybe even 3, depending on which charts you're looking at. I remember XRP had about 3 of those here. So did ETH. That was back in 2017. The cycle before was 54 weeks into that final peak. And so if we just measure out 52 weeks, that takes us to about, that's mental, February 2026. And I say it's mental because that could take us out into 2026 for some of these pumps. Just over 12 months from, well, sorry, just under 12 months from this point. Meanwhile, many models are sort of suggesting just late 2025. So it's going to be an interesting one, especially because the whole trend here is still down and there's a lot of overhead resistance. Obviously, we've got to come back to this. Okay, as for ETH, it's done a lot of work to push back into a position of mediocrity here. It has not got above $2,900, which is the key level, the next key level to get above as swing top, but it has closed relatively okay here at about $2,500. Good volume here, and it extended and bounced off the 50% extension. So there's a weekly swing, and when it bounces off of 50%, fails to break through it, that's a good sign for a change in trend. Now, it hasn't done either thing yet. It has not got above the top or broken down. So we're back into a bit of a neutral zone. Keep watch for $2,900, just like where I've got my alert here. XRP on a stronger side here. We've got a couple of stronger ones coming up. Closing above the swing tops, $2.90. And the close here was at $2.94. You got to close above 50%. And like you can see here with this weekly, it hit 50%, so it tested it, tried to test the bears. The bears failed, and the bulls came back, closed back above those swing tops. So a lot more strength showing here for XRP. Doesn't mean that you're about to experience a blow off to $10. Maybe you do. But the point is that you're seeing more strength in this chart than we are seeing in the Ethereum chart with where it's currently positioned. It has not been able to break past that swing top. I'm going to do ADA next because it's also bounced but has not broken past the next swing tops. It did the first couple here in February. It's above 50%, so it's not doing too bad, but you now have an extremely abnormal bar for ADA, and we know ADA doesn't like these bars. That's just the market speaking. The market has shown time and time again, when an abnormal bar occurs, it's likely got some corrections to happen, just like here. You can see it coming into these peaks. There was also a correction. There was also a correction here. However, there was not one on this bar here. So you're kind of at the start of a new move, and to throw a little bit of hopium into the mix, this could be one of those moves there. If that is the case, the start of a new move, 1, 2, 3, 4 into the peak, just like what happens in most other cases. You get these sort of extreme moves, and then there's just a limited time until the peak comes in. Same thing happens for XRP with Canada. You get these abnormal bars, 1, 2, 3 into a peak, nothing happens over that period. Next up is Solana. It's bounced off 50%. It's tested the 50% extension, closed above it as well, and closed above these swing lows at $174. However, still below 200, still below 210, which is the previous top here. It's got a lot more work to do, but doesn't mean it can't go up. Everyone's sort of, hoping for this thing with the Trump talking about Solana here as well. So there's a lot of the Sol Army, or whatever they want to call themselves, hoping and waiting for this. I dare say, just to check on your altcoin versus BTC charts, that isn't too bad, closing above the swing lows and the 50% level and putting in a fair bit of volume. But if you start to see this trickle down and close back under the 50%, maybe just distance yourself from the emotions of the crowd. You just don't want to go with the crowd too often because most often they get absolutely wrecked. SUI, on the other hand, here is closing above the 50% levels. Good volume here, and it looks like it just needs a little bit more time, like we've been covering with the downtrends. Last time was 133 days. I'm looking for about half that at this point, so that's going to come up in the next 1 to 2 weeks, so not too far away here, and that could be a nice little base there for SUI to start its next moves to the upside. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed, not even a change in trend here on the weekly, but an okay bounce there. Now, the last couple of things I want to look at are the BTC charts for XRP. So XRP has hit the 50% level, but you've got the highest weekly close now in a very, very long time. So highest weekly close, we've got to go all the way back to somewhere in 2021 for the XRP BTC chart. So if this starts to break past roughly the tops here at about 3,400 Satoshis, or the tops here at around 4,000 Satoshis, that is going to be a pretty mega move there for XRP. You don't have too much resistance until you get towards the 50%, and these previous swing tops at around 5,700, 6,000, 6,200 Satoshis. So that is an outpacing of BTC. Speaking of alt BTC charts, because this video has gone on very, very long, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, of course, share it with a friend. Don't forget this sale that is on for the next 24 hours only, link in the top of the video description. Ethereum BTC. It has continued to give us some volume here, but it is not doing enough. It still has not broken past any of the swing tops. This is on a weekly chart as well. And this is the price target that we're now watching for an overbalance in time and price. Basically, a significant change in trend here for ETH, which potentially outpaces BTC. Until that happens, this is all just part of a downtrend. Massive one there, obviously, with Trump announcing Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, Solana, ADA. He sounds like he's got the ultimate noob portfolio going on. But other than that, I'll see you guys back here at the next video. Don't go anywhere. We've got heaps coming up, of course, with the traditional markets also looking like they are finding their way through this Q1, Q2. Now, this, of course, is with the macro view of the S&P 500 potentially breaking out. This could send shockwaves through the market and bring back that FOMO after nearly 4 months of sideways chop. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you back here at the next video or on X really, really soon. Till then, take care and peace out.